Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, possums alike. We appreciate all of you for tuning into our show week in and week out. This will unfortunately be our last week previews for the season and our last live show of the season as well. Although that's probably not true. We'll probably do another live show at some point or another. But at the moment, if you need help in the fantasy playoffs, we'll still give it to you. We're not going to be here for you. We're always here for you. But we're just going to switch back over to Dynasty because the thing is, in week 15, if you don't know who to start on your team in fantasy football, I'm not saying you don't need us. I'm just saying you should have your studs. You shouldn't be like, oh, do I really need to start this guy? Although I do have some really good questions that I want to add to this show because I'm a little questionable about him, and I'm going to have to start him to try to make the playoffs or try to get better seeding. So anyway, you're hearing my voice, which means Joe's not here, unfortunately, again, but he will be here next week. We all hope he's not dead. I promise you. And we're going to continue this offensive point spirit in his stead for the moment. So Billy, we're here once again. I'm Brand Vendor on Twitter, and once again, I'm Josh Hall STL with one H because it's complicated and my name is too common. So what's up, Bill?
All right, I'm proud of you, Josh. That was a minute and a half. I was wondering how long you were gonna go there, just spilling everything out. But I'm proud of you. That was actually not as long as it could have been. Folks out there, look, we've done preview shows in the past during the playoffs. Look, if you're in a 12-team league, half of your league members are out, and then for that 1 week, there's only like 3 games in your entire league. It's kind of tough to actually put together a show around that because it's kind of obvious, start your studs. Like that's kind of the obvious thing. So I think that this, of course, will be our last week doing this, but at the same time, like if you're making the playoffs, just start who got you there. Dance with the girl who you brought, as they say. Like that let's not get cute,
Unless you're Urban Meyer and then dance with the girl that you randomly saw at the bar that you own.
Yeah. Urban will never get to the playoffs ever in his entire life. Okay. Hey, Rue is in the chat. We are live on YouTube for the last time. Rue, it's good to see you. Well, not for the last time.
I know it sounded weird when I said it too. I was like, I don't like that.
I keep saying it's like a finality about it. It's really not. Rue says, who's the Jacksonville wide receiver to have now? I kind of like that Ricky Parker. Washington is who he's talking about. And yeah, I mean, of course, that he had a big game. We'll get to that when we get to Jacksonville because that is a shit show of a game now. What do I do with Herbert? He's been underwhelming lately. I'm assuming Justin Herbert.
100% Justin Herbert. And this is one of my questions as well, Rube. Don't you worry. We're going to get to that.
Okay. And then he says play the Urban drop. And of course, we don't have it, Rube, because we forgot to import it over. But you know what? We will get it eventually. Because who knows when we're ever going to need that again? I personally don't think we will, but it comes up.
I just name dropped, and the reason I did it was because I knew that we couldn't get copyrighted by playing "Grind with Me," which you guys all know if you were raised in the '90s and early 2000s rap R&B. So,
yep, can't play it live, but it's a classic sound. Okay, Josh. Before we even get into the previews of it all, I texted you and Joe today that I have an amazing business proposition for you. And for the IDP guys in general. So Nate, Ricky, whoever else is in charge of the financial side of this empire, just listen up. Here's what I think we should do. And this is an advertising play, kind of. We need to put a possum on the blue medical tent during NFL games. Every time they show the blue medical tent, everybody's like, oh, damn, like, what's my quarterback doing? Like, oh, the wide receiver, he's limping in there. But if there's a possum on it, people are going to be like, why the hell is there a possum on the blue medical tent? I think we should sponsor the blue medical tent. That's my idea.
I was not you led so specifically with this in the chat, and then you told Joe because he wasn't going to be here, and I was just like, what is it? And he's like, no, it's a good idea. I love it. We need to do it, man. We need to get a possum, and it doesn't even need to be like our possum. It just needs to be like the outline of it in such a faint way that people like see the blue medical tent get unfolded and they're like, wait, was that a possum? And then they flash because they don't show the blue medical tent for longer than like 2 seconds on there. It's just be like, what is that?
First of all, I don't know if anybody's ever thought about sponsoring the blue medical tent because it's a bad thing. So people are like, oh, I don't want my brand associated with that. I do, because you see it every game. And every important player is the one going into the blue medical tent. You want to be the advertisement shown on that pop-up blue medical tent. I don't know, Josh. I think it is an advertising gold mine, and I don't think anybody's thought about it yet.
I don't think it's impossible either. Everybody's got their price, and the NFL is definitely one of those people. I don't know if Ricky really appreciates this, but we're gonna pitch everything we have, Ricky. I apologize.
Exactly. And Rue in the chat says they show that tent in every game. I know. And the injuries are just piling up and piling up.
It's a rough week
It's
for injuries.
Free advertisement, Josh. That blue medical tent goes up. The camera's going to pan to it because we all want to see who the hell just walked in there. And there's a possum just sitting on the side of it, just in a nice, cool, cartoonish font. Maybe we could have something. I don't know, Josh. I think it's a great way. I think it's a great way to advertise, and it gets shown every game, so you know you're definitely going to get some TV time. I don't know. Thought it was a good idea.
I absolutely love it. We'll have to have a chat with Ricky offline. He probably hates us right now as he's listening to this, but I'm sorry. We have to pitch everything we have. That's what we're here for.
Well, Joe loved it, and that's okay with me. As long as Joe likes it, we can make something happen.
Joe and Ricky have a good relationship too, so it's perfect.
It's true. Okay, well, let's get on to the game previews. The quarterbacks this week. It's like the Walking Dead. I mean, it's going to be kind of a tough go through some of the quarterbacks, but we're going to try our best. So, we'll just start off with the Thursday night game. We got Pats Steelers. I'm going to go ahead and just before we even preview players, take the under. It's going to be Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky. This game's not getting over like 16 points probably. That seems like a stretch, but there's some kickers that might do some things in this game. I don't know how either of these teams makes a lot of points happen, especially the Patriots. They suck.
I was actually going to interrupt, and instead of doing the quarterbacks, let's go ahead and talk about the kickers. You're going to start Chris Boswell this week. If you've had Riley Patterson on your team or Matt Prater a couple weeks ago where he got -1, this is not that game. This is the Chris Boswell experience. New England's Chad Ryland. He's had some issues, but I just can't foresee this being a touchdown game. And obviously that charge, maybe not actually start Ryland. I don't want to give you that, but on the other hand, absolutely you're starting Boswell here. You got to assume that a few field goals are going to be flying. So I'll get into the running backs just because I want to touch on this. I think this is the Jaylen Warren experience this game. I know the Patriots are pretty decent against the run, but Najee Harris was not practicing on Tuesday, and I don't believe on Wednesday either. They're optimistic that he's going to play. This is a knee injury, non-participant on Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't see any way, shape, or form that Najee has a good game here. They're optimistic that he's going to play, but he hasn't practiced. I just don't see it. Sure, there's a possibility. Obviously, that game last week for both of them was pretty disappointing. Warren more so for Harris than Harris, but I think this is the Warren game because even if Harris does play, I think that Warren will get those big explosive plays against the New England defense, and that's what they're going to need in a game that is featuring no quarterbacks. So,
well, you say that, but the Patriots defense has been locking down everyone. So
I know. I feel like
it's been kind of tough to come by. Austin Eckler looked like
me or you the last entire season.
That's true. But against Patriots, he looked real bad.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the Steelers are actually allowing running backs to go, and Stevenson is out. So you know what that means? Ezekiel Elliott, who was basically free in a couple leagues for me. My question is, do you start him? Do we trust Zeke enough to start as a full-time running back?
I am in a league that's like super deep because I have to, because I'm just like, it's war of attrition at this point. But if you have other options, I would probably go with those other options. But if you've been holding on to him this whole time, waiting for him to have the full opportunity, this would be the time. But man, it's a dark, dark day. And
as Rugeroo quotes Billy, woof. But honestly, though, like I have JSN, and I think that's my other option. So it's like, I kind of like the idea of Zeke getting 20 carries for once
against Pittsburgh Steelers defense,
which they know that they're not going to be able to throw. I don't know. It's just weird to me. I'm probably going to do it. I love pain. So I'm not saying you should, guys out there.
If anybody comes out of this game feeling happy about their day, like their fantasy game, I will be shocked. I just think that if there was anyone, it's Zeke and Warren. And yes, you're right, Brew. Woof on this whole game. We could go ahead and do the wide receivers too. Woof. We finished that off. Just kidding. Deontay Johnson and Pickens actually did have decent days, but that was mostly before Pickens went out or Pickett went out. Pickett, yeah. So yeah, you have Mitch Trubisky, who looked just as bad as he possibly could in the rest of that game against the Cardinals. The Cardinals defense looked like the 85 Bears, which is just like that defense isn't good. So it's like, what are we doing? I
In
don't
New
know.
England,
This
we've
is
been telling you this for weeks. There's no wide receivers on that team.
this is actually a perfect time too. Now that we're talking about the tight end, so Pat Fryermuth, thanks, bud. Gonna go ahead and take my
Take that
fireball
L.
shot for that. Trey McBride did in fact outscore Pat Fryermuth. Well, with Mitch Trubisky in there, nothing happened at all. With Pickett, it was only sort of happening. So
When did Pickett go down?
I think I don't remember, Josh. I'm
Okay,
taking
my
a
bad.
fireball shot.
Sorry, you go ahead and drink. But yeah, no, we did make a fireball bet last week. Billy was on the train of Freiermuth after one good game this season, coming off IR, which was impressive. But at the same time, Trey McBride's been just getting the targets, man. He feasted too, 20-something points.
He had a good matchup. Whatever. Screw it.
It hurts me.
Yeah, for real. Okay, let's
get past this game. It's over.
Let's take this game out behind the barn, Josh, as they say.
Sorry.
Steelers win because the Patriots are tanking and they're making it more obvious as the weeks go on.
Yeah, the poor Steelers got a loss finally, and here they are getting a free win. Hopefully,
yeah, basically. Actually, the worst person this game is for is poor Al Michaels. I know Will Power said earlier, I'm only going to watch Thursday night to hear the snarky comments by Al Michaels. Yeah, Al Michaels is going to be maximum snarky during this game because he is going to not love this matchup for himself.
All right, let's get into something more exciting, and I'm gonna kick this to the next game. We got Lions Bears, and there's plenty of games that are happening at 12 o'clock, but I want to get into something a little bit more positive. Lions Bears, a good, nice rivalry. Lions coming off a couple losses. Well, never mind. Sorry, they did beat New Orleans. That game was just ugly too. But coming back into the Bears, and that game was really good 4 weeks ago, however you look at it, whenever you're listening. Bears looked like a real team. The Lions came back and took over after the Bears gave it away. This should be a really good game for fantasy all around. I don't have any big sits here other than the Bears running backs. The three of them all being healthy is not helping anyone. But Detroit running backs, Montgomery, Gibbs, starting and firing them both up. I mean, they've been working together. And then Goff and Fields, you can't sit either one of those because they probably got you here in the first place. I guess Goff might be your backup unless you have one of these other injured quarterbacks that are out there. So I'll let you get to the wide receivers though.
No, first of all, and DJ Moore's your start for the Bears. That game was not good for the Bears 2 weeks ago. That was a disaster class by the Minnesota Vikings. But that offense was horrible for the Bears. Like that cannot be. I've seen people like gloating that like they won that game, and yay, you won a game, but like. Dobbs handed you that
it was
one.
A good game. I didn't say it was good offense.
Okay. Well, IDP wise, it was a great game. On the other side, it was less than that. On the Detroit side of things, though, obviously Monroe St. Brown is good to go. Jameson Williams seems to have like one fun trick play a game. Last game it went for a touchdown. The next one it may go for like -5 yards. It's kind of just what's going to happen. I would say if you need a desperation flex, there's always the chance that he catches a 75-yard touchdown. It's always in the cards. You can't bank on it, but it definitely could happen. And then I wouldn't start any other wide receivers. Only other person on the Lions you're starting is Sam Laporta, who is just, carrying most people's teams on their back.
Oh yeah. Only reason I'm in a couple leagues, or at least as high as I am in a couple leagues. So yeah. That you nailed it. There's the Komet's a decent start too. I can't say that you can't sit him or you can't start him. But if you have a better option, I'm not against it.
Yeah. Will Power says I have both Monty and Gibbs. Gonna start one. Who's your choice?
Fudge. That's tough, man. I'm really sorry that you have that situation, which was nice in the beginning of the year because it was Montgomery clearly, and then it was Gibbs while Montgomery was out. But honestly, now. I'd say Monty probably has the best chance at the most carries, but Gibbs in the passing game, and more than likely, I think I would have to say that this game should lean towards the Lions, so it should be Monty, but it's really tough for me to say Monty over Gibbs because Gibbs is just so explosive.
Yeah, it's just tough because like you can't even really get like a nailed down version of how they're even doing things. Because in the last game, for example, David Montgomery had 19 touches, Gibbs only had 9. Um, like what are you supposed to do with that? I don't know. They were leading for a lot of the game too, so I guess that helped, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would say
so
they play the Cowboys at some point. That game you start them both, kind of thing, or at least
yeah, I
that
think
would
so.
be. I would lean towards Gibbs over Monty in that situation. Also, Will says, I sure hope Jameson Williams doesn't turn into Kadarius Toney, and don't you ever say that. Okay, they're finally getting Kadarius Toney actually, or Kadarius Toney, Jesus Christ, Jameson Williams actually involved, and whether it's a lot or a little, he's getting touchdowns, and that's something Kadarius Toney doesn't do. So.
Yeah, I think Jameson Williams is like one tier above. If Kadarius Toney was in the like fuck around category, Jameson Williams is in the like kind of fucking around category. So I think you're still good right now.
All right, I got the Lions
Um,
winning this clearly. I mean,
yeah, for sure. Ruse says Herbert, Ken Walker, Achan, or Tajay. Pick 3.
this is another question of mine. Is Henry gonna be out this week?
I don't think it's official.
Yeah, because Tajay absolutely not. If he's to say he's not in concussion protocol, and I've heard nothing else about it. So I don't know if anyone has any information on that, but it's not Tajay. It's the other 3 basically. A chain. Ken Walker hopefully is back. And Khalil Herbert.
He's slated to be back, but
Actually, I guess
again,
honestly,
tough to say.
I'd take Tajay over Herbert if I had the choice.
Yeah, I probably would too. I don't think even if Herbert's out there, he's going to be. I would say, yeah, that would be who mine was between.
Henry isn't in concussion protocol. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't. It's so weird to me that he went out and he's not in concussion protocol. So it's just one of those things that like, is there another mystery injury that they didn't actually display? So
For sure. Yeah. All right, on to the next game: Buccaneers versus the Falcons. As far as the quarterbacks go, I don't think either one's starting right now. It's Baker's kind of. I wouldn't say Baker's falling back down to earth because his connection with Mike Evans does make him like a mid-tier. Like if you're in a super flex league, you're like, oh, okay, cool, this works. But like if you're in a 1 QB, no. And then Desmond Ritter's ass. You're not going to start Desmond Ritter. Don't do that. On the running back side of things, Rashad White's found a nice lane for himself. So obviously start. Bijan, obvious start. And I don't think Tyler Algier should be going anywhere off your bench.
I don't dislike the Baker start if you need him. There's a lot of weird quarterbacks starting. So if you had Lawrence and you happen to pick up Baker out of the thing, he actually was pretty consistent up until the last couple games. Had a couple bad games, but I think he could easily go for it's the touchdowns. He needs to get them instead of Rashad White and stealing, and also they need to score touchdowns, which helps. But Evans, you're absolutely firing up after last week. I don't think there's any doubt in your mind. If you really had any doubt anyway, hit that 1,000-yard mark, which was really impressive for 10 straight years or something like that for Mike Evans. Amazing. Chris Godwin, I think if you're in a position where you need to start him, you kind of have to. I don't hate it. I just don't love it either. And then Atlanta, I'm sorry. I don't like, I guess once again, Drake London's always kind of like, sure, if you need to, but I'm sorry. 1 point between the wide receivers last week, not going to be a start for me, in my opinion. I don't know why he still projected 10 points in fantasy, but yeah, not for me, man.
Well, the Jets are just locked down. I think anybody who's playing the Jets should just expect a bad week from their wide receivers.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but a few double digits, and then a 1, and then a 6, a 4, 14, a 1. It's hard for me to really be like, yeah, you're starting Drake London.
Probably not fighting for a final playoff spot with Drake London. I think we can both say.
Yeah. Although Tampa Bay's pass defense is pretty bad. And then Kate Otten, nah, not yet. I like it. I think dynasty wise, you're loving Kate Otten. But I don't think that you're really rolling him out there week in and week out. And then on the other side, yeah, it's Kyle Pitts. It's the same argument. I mean,
can't do it because they're gonna throw it.
Well, you got Pruitt
out
there now. Yeah,
Jonnu Smith. It's gonna be anybody but Kyle Pitts. I don't know why, Josh, they don't trade him next season, but maybe we'll get to that in the offseason. But I think they should maybe shop him. I still think they can get a good price for Kyle Pitts, and if they're not going to use him anyway, why not recoup? I think you get a late first rounder for Kyle Pitts right now.
Tell me how you got a quarterback out there, 2 quarterbacks that are trash over the last 6 games or whatever, and you're not throwing 10 targets apiece to London and Pitts. just to see.
Josh, it's never going to happen. And
All right, we're done talking about the
to happen.
Falcons.
It's not going to. I think the Buccaneers win, actually.
Yeah, I do too. I think Atlanta's actually gotten pretty lucky in a lot of games. Bijan's definitely carried a little bit.
1,000%. All right, next game: Colts, Bengals. Gardner Minshew is back. I like him. He's doing some good things for this Colts offense. He's revived a lot of people that you didn't really expect. And then Jake Browning, question mark. I actually liked him quite a bit against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he is a good to go starter this week.
It's ironic.
I
was just going to say, it's ironic that I said Jake Browning might be the best backup quarterback in the league after as a small sample size. And then you said Gardner Minshew would like a word. Well, you know what? We get to see it this week. And I don't hate it at all.
Can't wait. Josh, do you know, this is kind of leading the witness here with this trivia question, but do you know what QB in the country right now, starter for the National Football League, threw the most touchdowns in high school?
I'm going to have to go with the guy that we're talking about, Jake Browning.
It is Jake Browning. Dude threw 90-plus touchdowns his senior year of high school. It clears the second most, which is Kyler Murray, by like 20. So Jake Browning in high school, stud. Jake Browning in college, not so much. Jake Browning so far in his NFL career, been terrible.
Okay.
This might be the time. This might be the time to shine for Jake Browning. I like it.
Yeah, people are picking him up and starting him. I don't love that for you. I understand the matchup looks decent on paper. I don't love it for you. If trying to get into the playoffs, if you're just coasting to try to get to number 2 slot, or you really need it, sure. I don't want to say I don't want to talk down on him. I actually really like him. It's his second career start. Let's calm down, guys, for fantasy football playoffs.
Fair enough. He showed some things last night. He looked like a gamer. We need to go back to our quarterbacks episode. Maybe put Jake Browning in. Just kidding. Running backs wise, Joe Mixon. Look, last game he actually showed out, got 2 touchdowns, but you're kind of just touchdown dependent. And then on the Indianapolis side of things, Zach Moss for one more week. He was kind of underwhelming last week, but I think he could have a nice bounce back game against the Bengals.
Yeah, and Michael Pittman and Jamar Chase are the only 2 wide receivers you're putting in your lineup for this. I understand why you'd be tempted. T. Higgins hasn't looked the same since he came back, and Tyler Boyd has been absent since he came back. So I don't want you to be risking that, especially with a basically rookie quarterback. And then Pittman just absolutely going off on a new tangent. And then Josh Downs and Alec Pierce are just too big play dependent. I mean, I know it looked good last week with Alec Pierce. I know you may be looking at it and be like, oh, he got 100 yards. That was on 3 catches, man. I love to see it, but you don't want to be risking that right now. Just trying to put it out there.
Yeah, I have people like picking up Alec Pierce, starting him in leagues, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I would trust it, you know.
In deep leagues, sure.
Yeah, for sure. 10-man, no. Hell
no. I just saw it happen in a 10-man.
12 with a small bench. I don't know.
Still no.
Depends. Yeah, probably not. And then no tight ends for this game, right?
Oh yeah, I don't. Did you know any that are on the teams?
Didn't love it. I thought Browning might use a couple, kind of give us a little hint, a little nudge, but nope.
You know, I actually noticed the last couple of years that's been dying down for the younger quarterbacks coming in. They don't actually rely on the tight ends like they used to.
It's kind of wild. It used to be just like you and rookie quarterback come in, tight end right away. Like that would just be what they do. Well, you know, we say that, but Jacksonville, Beathard, he did do that. He just threw it to Evan Ingram like 15 times in a row.
Evan Ingram's a wide receiver. I'm sorry. He's what everyone hopes to be.
That's actually true. They actually profile quite a bit like each other. For this game, though, I think Indy wins.
I got Indy winning as well. I think it's a good game. I think this actually profiles as a really good game. Cincinnati's trying to get into the playoffs, or trying to keep their playoff spot alive, basically. But I think Indy's actually turning into quite a good team without even Jonathan Taylor and, of course, Anthony Richardson.
For sure. All right. Will says, since you're on this game, who would you rather have in Dynasty, Joe Burrow or Anthony Richardson? Both got dropped. I'm going to pick one of them up in week 18. Only reason they're available is because it's best ball. The roster spots are tight, and the maximum of 3 QBs are allowed on a team.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Joe Burrow is probably the correct answer. But
Yeah,
depending
it
on
is.
who I had on my team, I might consider both. I guess it would depend on who the other quarterback you're holding is. I might consider both.
My biggest thing would be so Joe Burrow broke his hand, right? And he's got wrist surgery or whatever, tendon surgery.
Right.
That should be a
Correct.
relatively quick recovery, i.e., like for next year. Not saying like he's going to make it back this year or anything. Anthony Richardson, that shoulder, man, it is his throwing shoulder, isn't it? So yeah, it is his throwing shoulder. I that's gonna take some time, and he wasn't good at throwing to start with. So unless he's the kid from that one baseball movie where he throws it from the outfield at home plate, I don't really love that for Richardson coming back in his sophomore year. So like you said, if there's another quarterback you can drop, I'd be willing to do it. But it's Joe Burrow.
He says he's got Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love, and I would keep both of those two.
Nope, Joe Burrow, get him on your team. In addition to those,
Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow. It is the fireball. It's spicing me up. Okay, on to the next game. We got Jacksonville versus the Browns. This is going to be ugly. I cannot see how this could possibly be a good game, but CJ Beathard is probably going to start for Trevor Lawrence. They say that he's questionable for the game, which I think is hilarious. We all saw the leg. There's just no shot in the world. I know it's only an ankle sprain when it was all said and done, but that was a pretty violent ankle sprain. Mm-hmm. So I cannot possibly see him playing in this game, especially against the Browns. You're not testing an ankle against Myles Garrett. Sorry, not going to happen.
And before you even get here, I know Joe Flacco did not look great, but like coming in after being retired, basically, I know he probably wasn't actually retired. He actually didn't play bad. And I'm sure a lot of this was in trash time. I didn't actually get to watch this game, but Joe Flacco against the Jacksonville secondary, he could put some points up. Like I'd rather have Joe Flacco playing than some of these other quarterbacks that people are picking up. I'm not going to do it. I'm not telling you to do it. Please don't. But throw him for 250 yards after, not playing football for a year and a half. The worst person you could play. Don't do it.
True.
Please don't do it.
As far as the running backs go, Travis Etienne is just not the same right now, coming back from that injury. So while he is still probably a start, you're definitely going to have those expectations managed quite a bit. But Dearness Johnson seems to have carved out quite a bit of a role. It's not Tanks Bigsby as we had thought. They signed Dearness Johnson in the offseason. We kind of thought, why would they do that? Well, now they're kind of showing it as he's getting his usage uptick. I definitely would think that's maybe a flex play, especially depending on where you're at in the injury position. I'm having to start him in a league that's actually trying to make it into the playoffs. So I can understand your pain. On the other side of things, Jerome Ford is the only one I would start for Cleveland on as far as the running backs go.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt's experiment is he stopped finding the end zone was what it was.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But I actually do like Etienne here. I think they're gonna lean on him a little heavier. I understand why you'd say Dearness Johnson. He has been involved, but he hasn't actually done anything.
I thought they would do that last week, and they didn't lean on him at all. In fact, he didn't even take a snap in the second half.
Yeah,
until about the end of the game for Etienne. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird something going on in the water. We need to get that touchdown, which was helpful. All right, on to the wide receivers. Who's a Jacksonville wide receiver to have? Ruguru asked, and it is absolutely Parker. There is nobody else. Calvin Ridley, I'm sorry. We had Zay Jones played, although he did get injured, so I don't know if that played into it. He kept playing, but he wasn't great. Parker Washington, I guess him and Beathard have been hanging out because he definitely got some targets at the end there, and he's going to continue to. Christian Kirk is, I believe he's officially out for the next game. Yeah, he's going to miss some time. And then Calvin Ridley, I'd love to see it, but man, he dropped a touchdown. He dropped a couple plays. Sure, Calvin Ridley can be started. I just don't love it against Cleveland's secondary. But Parker Washington seems to be that guy right now. It's tough to say, hey, start him and you're trying to get into the fantasy playoffs, but I think you can if you need to. And meanwhile, on the other side, Amari Cooper not doing it. And you know who is? Elijah Moore. I said this last week, I believe, and he is playable at this point. 9 targets, 12 targets the last 2 weeks. And these backup quarterbacks are liking Elijah Moore. Maybe it's more of a safety blanket situation, but I'm liking it. And then tight end wise, and Njoku, not the guy this time. Harrison Bryant instead. And then Jacksonville, yeah, we talked about it. Evan Ingram's the actual wide receiver one on this team at this point without Christian Kirk. So.
Yep. I had Evan Ingram over 4.5 catches, and he had like 5 catches at the end of the game. So it was quite fun to watch, an easy cash. So, a lot of people are saying that Joe Flacco and Elijah Moore play together with the Jets. Do you think there's anything to that, or is it just random.
I think it's the style that Elijah Moore plays. He plays that kind of get to the first down line and do a curl. He's not really running deep routes. And I think that's just a safety blanket. I think Joe Flacco sees that. He immediately recognizes it. And especially in his first game there, maybe Cooper will have a little bit better of a game, but Cooper's been on the downtrod all year since Deshaun Watson went down. So, or I guess the last 3-4 weeks. So I'm not starting Cooper anywhere unless I'm absolutely forced to.
That's fair. I can't see Jacksonville winning this. Sorry.
No, I got Cleveland winning. Beathard can't win this game. And Cleveland's defense is still really stout against the pass, and that's the really tough test for Beathard. So,
Willpower asked Parker Washington or Xavier Gibson rest of season.
That's a great question.
That is a really good one.
It's Parker Washington. Man. I'm sorry.
I think it is just because like rest of the season at this point is like 3 weeks, and I think you're at least going to get 2 for sure out of Parker Washington, where he could be the wide receiver 1, whereas Xavier Gibson, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They say it's going to be Zach Wilson, but he's a nervous wreck apparently about doing that. Or it's somebody else on that roster who can't complete a really good pass. So I think I would go Parker Washington and just have more confidence in that.
I just feel like for Gibson, it's 1 game, and sure, I mean, he's been playing for 5. So it's hard for me to say, oh my gosh, Parker Washington plays 1 game and blows up. I got it. If I'm going 1 game, I'm going with the guy who just did it on his first game.
For sure.
First real game.
All right. You want to take the next game? Whatever you want to pick.
Yeah, let's pick one. Gosh, they're just so ugly. I don't love it. All right, let's do a fun one. Rams Ravens. This should be a good one. Matt Stafford not looking as bad as he has in the past, but still not great. I guess in this game, I just don't love it. So 2 games in a row of 30-ish points, multiple touchdowns. The wide receivers are what the issue is here for me for Matt Stafford, but also it's the matchup, Baltimore. You're going to probably want to sit him this week. I assume you didn't get here because of Matt Stafford. And then Lamar Jackson coming off a bye, well-rested against the Rams defense. You are absolutely going to start Lamar Jackson. You want to know why? Because he got you here. You played him during that 40-week game against or 40-point game against Detroit. And you know what? He's had a couple bad games here and there, but you probably don't have someone better. So I'm not sitting Baltimore against this defense. And honestly, if on the off chance Stafford does have another 30-point game, Lamar is going to have to do it too. And you know who's going to do it? Himself. So 100% play him. And then on the running backs, Gus Edwards, we're right where we left off with 2 to 3 to 5 touchdowns a game. Probably going to do that again. Keaton Mitchell, I'd love to say play him, but I just don't think we've seen it. Yes, I know Gus Edwards didn't have a good game against the Chargers right before the bye, but I don't see Keaton Mitchell stepping in and just being that monster guy just with 8 carries. And then the Rams, it's Kyron. You don't even need to do it. Honestly, he wasn't even having a good game, and then all of a sudden he got a touchdown at the end of the game, and I was just like, just so gratuitous. This guy would be running back 1 if he played a full season. Maybe not wrong. Running back 3 at least.
All right, on to the wide receivers. Look, Zay Flowers is the only one I trust just based on volume of workload. I know the last time they played, it took Zay Flowers having a 36-yard run to actually, get him the points needed, but he did get 8 targets too. So I know it's been an up and down roller coaster with Zay Flowers. If you're still in it at this point, though, I think you got to roll him out there. And then on the Rams side of things, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, don't overthink it. Nacua did get banged up in that game, but did come back in. So he should be good to go. In fact, it was kind of funny today. Sean McVay was asked about Puka Nacua, and he was like, they called him limited in practice, but he did every single thing that he was supposed to do in practice. So that should let you know Puka Nacua is going to be good to go on Sunday if Sean McVay is saying that and joking around about that on a Wednesday, mind you. So, should be good to go. And then as far as the tight ends go, Higbee, good to go. Likely is the best option on. He's not Mark Andrews, but he's kind of like Mark Andrews light. Like he's getting, about half of what you would expect from Mark Andrews, which is okay. That's still usable, and you can still roll him out in the playoffs.
8 to 10 points, I think you're fine with.
Yeah,
that's probably what you're really looking at. He might hit that 13 mark too. You never know.
Exactly.
I do want to. This is one of the things I wanted to insert here. So the Ravens are out on the Zach Ertz train for no reason when their backup tight ends are Charlie Kohler and Scotty Washington behind Likely. Why in God's name would you not just be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea? Our wide receivers are banged up. Our wide receivers aren't great to start with. We could use another tight end who can catch the ball and block, for that matter. And Ertz was having a fine season before he left. Not quite what Trey McBride's doing since he left, but he also didn't have our guy Kyler out there slinging the ball for most of the time. So I just don't get it. Why is Zach Ertz? Why would you reject Zach Ertz like that publicly?
I understand what you're saying, and like I think Baltimore wants everybody to think they're a playoff contender, but they fully do not plan on actually making a deep run in the playoffs. I just don't see how this is going to be completely healthy and working when it comes to January and you're going into Arrowhead. I just don't think it's going to work.
It didn't make a whole lot of sense just hearing that. Like, I understand what Kyle Shanahan did. He goes, "Oh, I think John Lynch makes those decisions. I'm sure he checked that out or whatever." That's a great answer right there. Ross Dwelly got injured. Kittle is Kittle, but I mean, it's just one of those depth moves. And if the Eagles don't sign him, I'd be real mad. But I do love Zach Ertz, a man amongst boys, says, "I ain't going to the fucking Cowboys." All right,
we appreciate his honesty. Ravens win?
Yes, but if Puka and Cup are both playing, which like you said they should be, I think this is a close game.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a touchdown spread right now. I definitely think the Rams could cover that.
Yeah.
Ruger says, on a side note, I actually like Zach Wilson. I feel like he'd benefit from Sean Payton. Maybe. He definitely needs to change the scenery. I do think that he is legitimately excited to go out there because he knows this is his last ride with the Jets, and he's just going to do whatever he wants and not really care what the coaches think. And I think that is actually a good way of going into it.
All this man needed to do was win like 2 or 3 games, and it just doesn't seem like he can buy a win.
I just don't know. I don't know. It's tough. Anyway, Willpower says, I have a decision, Lamar or Dak, tough call. Not a tough call.
No,
Dak is the call.
It's Dak.
Dak is probably the MVP of the league this year, even though I don't think he was actually going to give it to him. But
I actually saw a stat recently that the Eagles, since they started their tough game stretch of the Dallas Cowboys, Dolphins, blah, blah, they said that some guy was like, the Eagles are the worst defense in the last 6 games. I was like, yeah, look at the fucking offenses they played. But yeah, Dallas torched them with points. I mean, obviously the Eagles end up walking away with the win, but 374 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then hasn't had less than 2 touchdowns since. And that was one time. I don't understand how you could do it. And Pollard didn't do anything in general this year. So it's definitely Dak.
Pollard
I appreciate you.
Dead.
I don't mean to rip you apart there, but you're playing Dak every week.
We'll get to more. Yeah, Dak for sure. All right, on to the Texans Jets. We'll just start scraping some of these nasty ones off the shoe. Look, the Texans suffered a catastrophic loss. Tank Dell. That I think is going to really hurt their offense. But meanwhile, CJ Stroud still good to go. Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce are interesting flex plays. Calling them starters is kind of tough because I don't think either of them is a necessarily like locked in starter, but they both provide interesting upside at the flex position. And then on the Jets side, you're not starting Zach Wilson. I do think there's a chance he goes and airs it out, but that is a slim chance. So no. And then Breece Hall, I don't know what's up with Breece Hall, but it wasn't good this last game, and they used Dalvin Cook more than they have any time this season. It felt like, at least. Didn't really know what to make of that. I think they weren't really liking what they were getting out of the offense last week, so maybe they just tried to change things up against the Falcons. I mean, you still got to start Breece Hall, but I do think Dalvin Cook provides an interesting flex spot, even though that seems very scary.
Yeah, I actually have to disagree with you on CJ Stroud. I'm not starting him this week. I want to see what he's like without Tank Dell for one, but also this Jets defense has shut down like 5 of 6 quarterbacks the last 6 weeks. Not all great quarterbacks, albeit the only person who's actually done well against them in the last 5 weeks has been Josh Allen, and he still threw some picks, of course. But I don't know. I don't love Stroud coming out here against the New York Jets defense, which is the best secondary in football. I think we can all agree. So. I understand if you have to start him, and I get it.
I was going to say, if you have CJ Stroud, and it's pretty tough to say, yeah, start Jake Browning.
I don't know. Personally, I feel like if you picked up CJ Stroud, you should have another. No, do not start Jake Browning over him. I'm saying if you had CJ Stroud and a healthy Trevor Lawrence or something, obviously, I'm saying like a team that you could have 2 quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence.
What about Russell Wilson?
See, it's a tough quarterback schedule. Like I said, if you happen to have 2 good ones.
If you have a top 7 guy, start that top 7 guy. But if you have anybody else, CJ Stroud's good to go. That's what Josh.
All right, I'll allow it. Into the wide receivers, Nico Collins good to go with Tank Dell out, had a monster game. And I want to thank my buddy Mike for telling me to start him over Cooper Kupp, even though I was always going to. I just always like to mess with my buddy Adam. But I do appreciate it because I was actually between Nico Collins and Breece Hall, and he said start Nico, and I was like, yeah, sure, man. I mean, I'm already clinched number 1. I ain't worried about it, but it worked out. Noah Brown, on the other hand, coming in for Tank Dell, coming back for his first game, you might think like maybe he was just worked in slowly. But the biggest issue I have was he was out there the whole game and he got 2 targets and it did absolutely nothing. So little tough for me to be like, hey, go start him. But in a deep league, I am not against starting Noah Brown, or in a, it's your flex and you just need 10 points. You think he can get it. I completely get it. And then Gibson, he can start. It's one game to me, and I don't think that that's going to be enough for me. After 2-3 targets 4 weeks straight and then getting 6 and doing all of it with it, I don't love it as a start right here against Houston's also good secondary. And then Garrett Wilson, I think it's time that we can actually talk about it. He can be sat. I don't think you should, but I think you can sit him. He's been getting enough to where he, 10, 13 targets, obviously coming off a down game in Buffalo too, 2 weeks ago. So I feel like you need to start him, but I get why if you have better options, if you're going to be able to sit him. So
I'm starting to hear people say the Jets need more weapons, and I'm like,
they need a quarterback.
Soul. Yes, you need a
also,
quarterback.
They gave away McCole Hardman for no reason.
That's true. By the way, before we get off wide receivers, if anybody out there picked up Robert Woods thinking he's going to fill in, no, he's not. He didn't even come in relief of Tank Dell in that game. It was Mechie. So do not put Robert Woods out on the field. If anything, it's Mechie, but don't do Robert Woods. I know what you're feeling in the past. No, just don't. Leave him on the bench.
I'm not saying start either one of these people, but I actually am interested to see how this role works out without Tank Dell out there. Mechie and Hutchinson both should see expanded snaps. I think Woods probably also will, but I think if you're starting anyone else besides Nico Collins, it's Noah Brown. If Dalton Schultz somehow makes it back, I don't think he's going to, but he could. Brevin Jordan actually filled in really nicely for him, and those targets are wide open. So if Schultz plays, he plays in your lineup. And then on the Jets, there's no tight ends.
Nope, there sure isn't.
Conklin actually had a pretty good run at the beginning of the season, but yeah, it's over. Houston wins.
Texans continue their march towards the playoffs.
All right, let's grind through these terrible games. We got Panthers Saints. Panthers go on to do nothing and get the first round pick, and they don't have it. Too bad. So Bryce Young, I will say, sucks. That was a bad move, and you fired Frank Reich because of it. And then they came out, and remember what I told you? I think they're just going to go out there and lose. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Bryce Young was a bad pick, and you fired a great head coach for no reason. And then on the other side of the ball, Derek Carr, who is now out? Question mark. Yeah, I didn't get to watch this game, so we're seeing Jameis, and you're not starting him, but I understand why you think you might be tempted. But the Carolina pass defense is actually really good. He didn't do a whole lot, but I do think that this doesn't hurt the pass catchers for New Orleans as much as you would think it would. But I'll let Billy get into that. Running backs wise, you're going to start Kamara, and you're not starting. I don't care what you say. It's not Chuba Hubbard. I don't care what happened last week. It is not. 2 weeks in a row. Do it if you please, but I don't think you're right for doing it.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that.
Saints defense is really good against running backs, is what I'm trying to get at, but I also don't believe in Chuba Hubbard. So,
okay. Well, on the Panther side of things, Adam Thielen is good to go. Mingo is good to go, by the way. Bryce Young just can't hide it that he loves Jonathan Mingo, and he just keep throwing him the ball. Even if it's not a good decision, he just is going to chuck Mingo the ball. Chark also presents an interesting, especially if it's a throw game, presents an interesting opportunity. On the Saints side of things, Chris Olave is good to go. I kind of hope for more for Chris Olave, but he still had a good game. I don't know. I always wish we could see more. After that, though, it's kind of a dark situation. A.T. Perry, not really a good starter, but if you need to. And then after that, no.
I'm interested if Shaheed makes it back. I don't know if he will, but I'm interested to see what Jameis could do with Shaheed. But you're not going to start him. I'm just saying, like, could be interesting.
Yeah. And then tight ends, if Taysom Hill's eligible, I mean, yeah, he's going to do some funky stuff to get in the end zone, it feels like. So
Taysom Hill's probably
still all right.
With Carr down too, he could actually be more involved. So
for the quarterback side, yeah, exactly.
I mean, not really. I'm just saying he'll have more plays. He doesn't actually ever throw the ball.
True. And then the Panther side of things, no. Although weird, like not weird, but like prayers up for Hayden Hurst. I don't know if anybody saw what was going on with Hayden Hurst, but he took a hit in Chicago that's apparently given him like not PTSD, but like post-traumatic like hit or something. There's some kind of bad thing going on with him, and he needs, a lot of recovery right now. So Hayden Hurst, get better. I definitely hate to see somebody's season ended like that.
Yeah, and hashtag Fire Dennis Allen says, Rue, I agree. And hey, man, I'm finally picking your team. You guys are going to win. And Willpower goes, is Bryce Young the next Trey Lance? And no, he's not, because Trey Lance hasn't played more than 3 games.
It's true, but he is a bust. Ruru says it's a form of amnesia. Yeah, that's what it is. Post-traumatic amnesia from taking a hit against Chicago earlier in the year. So, again, hope he gets better. And then Willpower says Taysom or Freiermuth.
It's Taysom.
Oh, damn. I think it is Taysom.
And I hate it because the thing is, every time I've ever started Taysom, he gets 2. But anytime anyone else starts him, he goes and gets 25 or some stupid. But yeah, I mean, with their backup quarterback in, even though it is Jameis Winston, he's been in the system long enough. There's gonna be just like a couple more Taysom Hill plays sprinkled in there, I would imagine. And I mean, he just seems to have a nose for the end zone. So
true. So yeah, there you go. Saints, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, it's.
I hope the Panthers can win.
Are we finally out of the 3 o'clock games? Thank God.
I think so. This is all the stuff they're hiding in there.
Yeah, why are they putting all the bad games at 12 and then like what they thought was good games at 3? I hate it. The Eagles play at 3 entirely too many times. So
not this week though. All right, so on to the Vikings versus the Raiders. This is a game that they're trying to hide in that 3 o'clock window, by the way. Josh Dobbs is back. They finally announced he is for sure starting this week after a complete disaster. We call that last game the Disastronaut instead of the Pastronaut. It was the Disastronaut game against the Bears. So he's going to come back out and look to have a better game. Justin Jefferson should be back for this game too, which is great. I mean, welcome back. Jordan Addison should be out there. He should be good to go. I still do not love the running backs. I don't care how many times they have to shove Alexander Madison down my throat. Not going to have it. But yeah, this is a decent team. And then on the Raiders side of things, no quarterback, but Josh Jacobs, yes.
I actually am not loving Addison in this return here, or in Justin Jefferson's return. I just feel like Justin Jefferson's just going to be featured way too much. He's either going to get way too many targets or not enough, and it's a good spread. I don't want to bank my season on Justin Jefferson's return by playing Addison, and he's been fine, I will say, but that was mostly, and honestly, they'll actually really in reality hasn't been the favorite of, or at least connected with Josh Dobbs enough, in my opinion, to really want to play whenever they get a true number 1 back. But I get it if you have to play him, and I'm not telling you not to sit him or not to play him. Vegas, I can take care of Vegas. So you kind of took care of Minnesota. We'll finish up with Minnesota and say Hawkinson, you start him because that'd be silly if you didn't. But Devontae Adams actually kind of came back the last few weeks, and it kind of felt like a weird dead lull. That is the only person you're going to start on this team other than Josh Jacobs. Jacoby Myers, I don't care how you split it. It's just not it for me. I've seen one good game and a lot of bad ones in between. You could start him if you're in desperation, but I just don't think that you need to. But yeah, Josh Jacobs can obviously be started, but AOC, you're not doing that. There's so many bad quarterbacks playing. But Josh Jacobs, you start your studs and should be good for some run against the Minnesota tough defense. But it's Josh Jacobs and he gets all of it. So
AOC is such a funny nickname for Aiden O'Connell.
yeah, I keep doing it, and I keep thinking of who is it? Alexandria Ortiz.
Alexander, yeah.
Cortez. I don't know what her name is. I don't care about politics.
Cortez, Asasio Cortez or something.
Yeah, something like that. AOC though, for not starting in your lineup.
Great.
Yeah, and then Mayer, once again, great for Dynasty. This is going to be, we're going to talk about this at some point. This is going to be a trade target for everyone in the offseason. Let's just go ahead and nail it home right now. Yep. I think this is one of those like Trey McBride situations where you can kind of buy him cheap because he didn't play as much or didn't do as well. So, yeah.
I have Vikings.
I'm going to take the Raiders. I feel like this is the first time we've disagreed. I think the Raiders actually have been playing pretty well as a team.
Yeah, I just wish it was better. Anyway, on to Seattle versus San Francisco. This is always a hard-fought match. Seattle always seems to have something for the 49ers, but the 49ers coming off of that last game looks pretty violent, what they did to the Eagles. But that was kind of a grudge match. There's a lot of emotion.
My issue with this game is the NFL clearly wants the 49ers to win, as per the second quarter of the Eagles game. I'm not going to get too much into conspiracy theories, but there was a lot of calls and freebies that Ayuk touchdown.
Billy, you think they would actually get away with something like that?
Ayuk touchdown was not a touchdown. We talk about what a catch is. How is Dez Bryant's catch? Yeah, here you go, Dez. I'm actually defending you once. How is Dez Bryant's catch not a catch? But Ayuk's, who dropped the ball and then swooped it back up, was a touchdown. And that changed the whole momentum. I will say there's no excuse for Debo's 2 50-yard plus touchdowns, but I will say the momentum did shift in the second quarter after completely.
They just straight up fired Caden Ellis's ass today.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Shaq. It's like, nope, not going to have that.
No, he looked like shit. Shaq Leonard, looking forward to seeing him. But anyway, this is not the Eagles game. But I do want to see Seattle after putting it to Dallas, obviously getting the loss there. They didn't play well against San Francisco the first game, but they do have a good team, and they're coming off a pretty grudgy game against the Cowboys where Geno Smith was firing that ball out within like 2 seconds, and he was putting it up for Lockett, who dropped a couple. He put it up for JSN, who couldn't find the ball because he was throwing so quickly. If they talk about that a little bit more and they do that right, they can make this play. 49ers secondary is obviously good, but it's beatable. And if you throw that ball and it works, it can work. But 49ers are going to have a great time. Sorry, just wanted to get that out of the way.
Fair enough. Well, 49ers, you're starting the MVP favorite right now, Brock Purdy. Geno Smith, no, thank you. Christian McCaffrey, definitely starting him. Don't even overthink that at all. And then Ken Walker is supposed to play. I would monitor those injury reports very closely because he is supposed to be starting with Charbonnet kind of following him up, but I don't know. I wouldn't start him.
Yeah, I don't know, especially with if he does come back. I don't like the two of them playing together at this point, which is weird because you think that they would actually be doing stuff, but they're not doing well. And the 49ers D is just really good. So wide receiver wise, Debo, Ayuk, all good to go. Debo is he's coming back into existence, and it's all screen passes, but it works. And not to mention that's fantasy points for all those PPR players out there. And then Seattle wide receiver, really the only one I really want to play is DK. But Lockett and JSN can both be played because they're both going to get enough targets to where they could do great things with it. And then, of course, Kittle's a play, but Fant, even after a good game or okay game, is still not relevant.
For sure.
Seattle wins. Much to the NFL's dismay.
Much to their dismay. Got a question in the chat, Josh. Maybe you have an answer. Best linebacker matchups of Week 14.
Tough. I would say the one Eagles linebacker, Nicholas Morrow. He's going to be able to sweep up some of those tackles for the tight end and the running back. I mean, the top five. I don't need to tell you that, but I think just naturally you're going to want to go with anyone playing a team that's going to be winning fast. So Luvu would be a good one because they're going to be losing fast and they're going to be running the ball against them a lot. I love Bernard. I think him and he's just sideline to sideline all around. Once again, kind of a top running linebacker. And then Pace against the Raiders. I don't think they're going to be losing, but I think that Josh Jacobs gets featured enough that Pace has been stuffing running game. So
for sure. I would add on that Jets linebackers have a good matchup this week against Houston. I would say the Jets also have both ways. Like Houston has a good matchup against the Jets. Jets have a good matchup against Houston as far as linebackers go. And then also would take Detroit against Chicago. Also has a very good matchup.
Yeah, Jack Campbell's actually been looking really good these last couple weeks. Nice to see.
He's back. Singleton or Levante David?
Singleton
as well. I love Denver.
Yeah, he's been having a great fucking year, man. I love to see it too, especially as a 30-year-old. Really cool to see people our age getting out there and looking good. Let's get into some good games. We're finally here. Let's go Chiefs and Buffalo Bills. That should be a good one. You're going to play Mahomes and Josh Allen. I don't think you need a question behind either of those. And then Pacheco having a good year this year, and I don't think it stops here. Buffalo's pretty good against the run game, but it's not that good. So hopefully the Chiefs learn their lesson and decide to run the ball a little bit better, or a little bit more, I should say. After last week, we saw a little bit more of that run game, and we'd like to see it, but they always start off like just firing the ball with Mahomes. But Pacheco, fire him right on up, and then go ahead and you probably just want to not play James Cook. I mean, I don't love this against the Chiefs. They're actually pretty decent against the run, but I completely understand why you'll probably have to play him. I wish they could give him 20 carries. I wish Josh Allen would get the ball out of his hand just 5-6 more times.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Wide receiver wise, we're gonna go for the Bills. Stephon Diggs, obviously Gabe Davis has become obvious now. He's come on quite a bit more this season than he has in the past. We kept hoping for the breakout. This isn't quite that, but close. And then for Kansas City, Rashee Rice is our guy. I have been hoping for the Rashee Rice thing. I tried to trade for him in leagues earlier in the season. If somebody hasn't caught on to what Rashee Rice is going to be yet, you need to start leveraging that owner and try to snag him away, because I think he's going to be the number one in this offense, even if they go get another guy.
I was going to say, I actually disagree. I think he's going to be the number 2, but I think it's more of like a Devontae Smith to AJ Brown type. I think they go out and get a wide receiver this year. I think they lose big this year at some point and they realize, oh shit, we should have just got a receiver. Like maybe Hopkins would have been a great idea.
I guess. I don't know what's eventually going to change their mind. They gave away the best receiver in the league.
Well, you can't pay what Tyreek Hill was getting, but getting an aging veteran like DeAndre Hopkins, who still has some juice in the tank, or Odell, even like, I mean, I don't. That's a terrible.
Give me Rashee Rice over either of those people.
So. T. Higgins, who's going to be available, not on a high contract.
If they're not paying Tyreek, they're definitely not paying T. Higgins. Definitely.
I don't know. I think their tune's going to change because they know that they're the apple of the.
I don't know why you think T. Higgins is going to take one of these cheap contracts. Like that's what he's going to accept.
He's not getting a max contract. He didn't get.
Somebody's going to drop a bag for T. Higgins.
I hope not.
Just based on his path. Yes, somebody's going to do it. Not going to be a good team. It's going to be like
all right.
Vegas.
Who wins this game?
Chiefs.
Okay, I'll take the Bills.
Yeah, Josh Allen can't do it, man. Josh Allen will never win a big game. It just will never happen. Sorry, he doesn't have it in him, and this is what I consider a big game.
I was going to take whoever you didn't choose, so I'll take the Bills, and we'll take a fireball bet on that.
That's easy to see. And Ruger just put T Panther to the Panthers in the chat. Yes, 1,000%. That is
actually does track.
1000% something that's going to happen.
They're like, we really got to make this Bryce Young thing work. And
they're going to be like, we need to just get him weapons. That's all they did for Jalen Hurts, right? They just went out and got him a wide receiver, and that he was all better. And so that's what they're going to think. Let's just go drop a bag for T. Higgins, and then they're going to realize that that's not how it works at all.
All right, Alexander, I'll also fireball bet you. I will double up on my fireball, but I need you to take a shot of fireball when the Bills win. All right?
Love that. All right, he says, do we start P.J. Locke or Xavier McKinney at DB? I'm going to go Xavier McKinney personally.
I'm going to also go Xavier McKinney.
Okay. Ferguson, a good fill-in for McBride this week. Yes. 1,000% yes. I love Ferguson, man. Can't wait till we do our tight end. I'm actually excited to do tight end rankings for like the first time.
Yeah, there's so many like that have been good throughout the season.
They're bubbling. There's a lot of bubbling.
Yeah.
It's like when you're making ramen and the pot's starting to boil. Like that's what the tight end position is right now.
Yeah, 7 for 91 and a touchdown against the Eagles last week or last time they played 5 weeks ago or so. Yeah, absolutely. You're starting Ferguson. Especially, I don't think Shaq Leonard starts this game. I mean, he just joined the team. And so we're going to have just Nicholas Morrow. And I mean, I assume Shaq's going to have to play.
I was about to say, I don't even know who else they would put because
I don't think we have another one, dude. I
don't think so, unless they're going to have somebody fill in that doesn't normally play that position, which doesn't seem good.
We don't even have enough secondary to do that. But
just to clean up, Rougarou said Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt are also good plays against Indy, just so it's out there. All right. On to the next game, which is the Broncos and the Chargers. This is actually a good game, but for not the reasons that you would think. It's more just like, are either of these teams going to figure their shit out? Like one of the two of them is going to have to figure it out. Broncos, Russell Wilson, good to go with me. Javonte Williams, good to go with for me. Herbert, no. I am not. I'm sorry. I'm done with the Justin Herbert thing. I know that eventually it's going to get better. I think eventually it will get better. I just don't believe it right now. And just my eyes, everybody wants to blame Quentin Johnston because he's a bust, which he very well may be. Everybody wants to blame like something, this and that, and the coaches and this and the offensive coordinator, even though they replaced him this offseason. Like everyone it might just be that Herbert's not good enough, guys. Like, and that's an option.
I think you said it last week too, that exact sentence. And honestly, I'm starting to believe it, dude. He literally lost me my clinch to the playoffs in integrity, and I'm probably out because I got to play Joe and I got to start Justin
Watching him play the Patriots was disgusting. It was gross to watch. He should be better than that. And then on the Broncos side, I already did Broncos. Chargers side, Austin Eckler, sure. It's been kind of a ho-hum season, unfortunately.
I don't really think it's a share even. I mean, I guess Denver's rushed.
I don't know who else you're going to have. Like you might have a lot of people.
Kind of have to start him. If you're even in it right now and you have Austin Eckler, good for you, man. I'm proud of you having a chance.
Yeah, you have really suffered through some things. I have a team that has Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. They are out of the playoffs already.
100%.
Like just done. 6-7.
The only team I have in Eckler with Eckler in who started all year because how do you sit him? I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. How do you sit him? You got to lose with that's whatever. Anyway, on to you with the wide receivers.
All right, it's Keenan Allen. I know that last game was pretty ugly, but it's Keenan Allen and you can't sit him. There's no way. He's wide receiver like 4 on the year, 2. Yeah. My apologies. And then on the other side of the ball, Cortland Sutton is actually really good at football, apparently, this year. I know it's not like splashy 40-point games or whatever, but consistency is key in fantasy football. And if you run Cortland Sutton out there as your wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, your flex, you are happy with 16, 15 points. I know last week it did not look great with the 2 catches for 77 yards, but he keeps doing it. And yeah, I don't think you can sit him, especially against the Chargers. And then Jerry Jeudy can be played in a pinch. I like to look at him more as a flex. It's not like they're using Marvin Mims anymore. I don't know who else they're using because it's no one. Judy's just not getting the targets that he deserves, or maybe there's an issue there. And then as for the tight ends, I don't think you start anyone. I love me some Gerald Everett, but I just am not seeing enough like consistency from him to want to roll him out there. And more than likely, I guess you could start Gerald Everett. He's kind of with Palmer been out. He's been kind of more of a lock or kind of a safety blanket, but I wouldn't. But I will say this game all around, this determines who goes to the playoffs between these two teams. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think one loss for either of these teams is the end. Probably
Yeah.
more so for the Chargers. If the Chargers want to start something, it's right now, and you got to win out pretty much. I mean, not really. You can probably fit the 7th seed, but you need to win a lot of these games, and it's bad. I feel bad for Chargers fans out there.
I think if the
They are.
Chargers lose this game at home, I think this is it for Staley. I don't think he comes back.
No, Staley's done after this if he loses, but they gotta have a drive. If they're gonna make anything happen this year, which they have a roster that could be good in the playoffs, or hypothetically on paper, but it's just not it right now. So
Yeah, for sure. I actually think Broncos win.
I'm also choosing the Broncos.
Okay,
Tough
this is
game for
dark,
them
man.
last week.
We're just guessing all the same people, which is probably not good.
That's not true.
All right, just to catch up on chat, Alex accepted your bet. He also said the Broncos win, which is what we think too. Willpower says I dropped Herbert in one league. Can't blame you.
I love it.
Honestly can't.
I love it.
Sad, but
Could have picked up Stroud, Dak. I mean, you could have made moves. Seen the writing on the wall before all of us, apparently.
All right. And Alex also asked, who do you all think wins the AFC? He says it's going to be the Ravens.
There's no doubt in my mind. 100%.
That's going to be the Ravens?
Oh, sorry. I thought that was the division. My apologies.
No, wins the AFC, like the whole thing.
My apologies.
I think it's going to be the Dolphins.
The Dolphins, yeah. My apologies. Sorry.
You're kidding me. We agree on that too. What is wrong with
the Dolphins are just. I was just talking to my buddy who's the Dolphins.
I'm just shocked that I figured
Dolphins 49ers might be the most prolific Super Bowl that we've seen in a long time. I don't want to see it, but
that would be wild. All right, Rigor says Ritter or Herbert.
It's Herbert, but you're not fucking happy about it, dude.
Definitely not happy at all. All right, do the Lions get it together and help Amon-Ra out? He still had a good game last week. It was only 2 for 49 and a touchdown, but it was still, you still got your points.
If anything, they're probably trying to give him a break, man.
Yeah, it was just a Laporta game last week. We have to live with those.
Yeah.
And then Will says I actually have Stroud in that league where I dropped Herbert. Well, can't blame you there. Stroud's 100%. The best quarterback in the league right now. All right, we got 3 more games. We'll just bust through these real quick. This next one's the Eagles. So the Eagles versus the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football.
Start everybody. We could bust through this real quick.
I don't exactly, Josh. I really don't think there's anybody you can't start. You could talk me into Michael Gallup even potentially at a flex position. Like I would listen to it in this game. Yeah, there's nobody to sit in this one. It's a everybody goes situation.
You're not going to talk me into Michael Gallup. I'm probably drawing the line right there.
We have to draw the line there.
If we had to draw a line anywhere, but I'm okay with Brandon Cooks. I think that could be a flex play. He's actually had some pretty big games. Didn't do much against the Eagles in that game. Had the big breakout against the Giants, which doesn't count. And then 3 consistent games after that. So I think Cooks can be played. You're playing CD Lamb, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. We got Goddard back in this game too. Jalen Hurts. Yeah, you got Ferguson. Sorry, I'm not going in any particular order. Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Swift, and Pollard. Even I don't really love what Pollard's been doing, but he gets
Rico Dowdle.
All right, we draw the line. We're still talking about trying to get into the playoffs.
We just got to see where the line's at. We just got to see where the line's at.
The cool thing is this game is literally going to determine who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't. Because if you have one of these guys, you're getting those points on Sunday night. And
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and the
Monday
night
between these 2 teams, I was like, I think they're both going to the playoffs.
Oh no! But I mean, even the Monday night games, like there's a couple teams that you'll get some points off of, but you're not going to get anything like this. And this is the best game of fantasy football this week. You're not getting anything different.
I think you're right about that. Okay, Eagles win.
I picked the Cowboys.
By the way, Jalen Hurts is good. Read the shirt.
He is. But you know what they need to do? Run the fucking ball.
Well, that would be nice. All right, on to our weird, random, middle of December doubleheader on a Monday. Josh, what do you think the reasoning was to put 2 games at the same exact time on Monday night? Josh, what did you think? Why'd they do that?
My thing is they knew that neither of these games were going to be good at the beginning of the season, or at least they had to have assumed that this game wasn't going to be good. So you got Dolphins, Titans, and Packers, Giants. I don't know what the thought was here. What if you flexed one of these awesome 3 o'clock games, like, the Chiefs and Bills to a Monday night instead of, middle of the day? I mean,
Why not
who's in
just put
charge
one
of
of
the
these
NFL
games
schedule?
back on Sunday? Like, just put one of these games back on Sunday so we can have a more exciting 4 o'clock hour or noon hour. Like, more games. We love that.
All right,
Don't
let's smash through these real quick.
Okay.
I'll
Packers
start.
Giants.
Oh, okay.
No, Packers Giants. Barkley is good to go. DeVito in a pinch. Jordan Love's good to go. Don't love AJ Dillon.
Cool. Wide receivers, none of them on the Giants.
All right.
Sorry, like you could try to say that Slayton or anyone has this or has that, or Wandale showed some flashes, or I don't know, Jalen Hyatt, he had a good game last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, you're not doing it. You're not betting on Monday night. If you want that Monday night miracle, this is not the team to find it on. Um, it doesn't look like we're getting Waller back, so that means Bellinger is still a no. I would love for him to be a thing. I feel like maybe no, don't even think about it. I'm sorry for even saying maybe. That wasn't even worth it. And then Green Bay, I will say there's some options here that's definitely not on tight end, but it's definitely wide receiver. Christian Watson is actually having himself a couple great weeks in a row. I still don't believe in him. I never will. I will say these touchdowns are actually real touchdowns, other than last year. But you're playing Christian Watson if you have him. Jaden Reed had a bit of a down week, but you're still playing him. He's the most consistent wide receiver you've had on this team all year. And then Dubs and Wicks in a pinch. You're not banking your life on these guys, but if you're in a desperate situation, it'd be Dubs over Wicks if you had the choice. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I kind of like the Packers now, Josh. I hate this, but
yeah, I actually rooted for the Packers in the Chiefs game, and I hate everything about it because I fucking have hated the Packers my entire life.
I was back in on them, and I kind of hated myself for it a little bit.
Yep.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, Packers win.
Finish
We
her
got
off.
that. Miami playing a great game in Tennessee. You're going to start Tua. I don't know if you know that, but you know what you're really going to do in running backs? You're going to start Mostert and Akon. Both of those two can play at any time. His name's not actually pronounced Akon, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. A chain, obviously, most of that was in trash time, but he did finally get back into the end zone a couple times, and it was nice to see him actually fully healthy. Most obviously took a little bit of a back seat, but still got in the end zone. Shocker. That's what he's been doing all year. And yeah, on the other side of the ball, I don't know what's happening with Tennessee. I'd like to think that Derrick Henry is going to play. They said he's not in concussion protocol. It's cool seeing Tyjae Spears do something, but I think if Derrick Henry plays, Tyjae Spears rides the bench in every league that you're in. I'm sorry, you can't play him over him. And Derrick Henry, unfortunately, needs to be in your lineup, but I don't think you love it against this kind of game.
Fair enough. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill. Ever heard of him? No? Okay. Yeah, he is the best wide receiver in the league. He's an obvious start. Jalen Waddle, also a start, even though I would love to see him get more involved. There is not really a tight end worth using for the Dolphins, which is interesting because Kyle Shanahan's offense is kind of predicated on having a good tight end, and you would think Mike McDaniel would kind of mirror that, and he has not. So, interestingly enough, no tight end to use for the Dolphins quite yet. I think that is something to monitor in the dynasty streets. Kind of getting ahead of myself to the offseason. Titans wise, we're doing the DeAndre Hopkins things again. It's never pretty. The Titans have not played a pretty football game in weeks. I did like some of the things they were doing against the Colts. I didn't hate it, but didn't love it either. And then Chig is actually useful. I know that we kind of buried him, but I think it's time to get the shovels out and dig him back up because I'm back to him being a decent starter in the Titans.
Desperation
offense.
starter.
And then there's no other wide receiver on the team, so they don't love anybody.
Yeah. So just to answer some of these questions, Miami wins. I don't think we need to talk about this terrible Monday night games. How cool would this be if we just made the bad teams play the bad teams and the good teams play the good teams? But anyway, we're splitting hairs here. Alex asks Kyron or Rashad White. It is Kyron Williams all day, every day. Me and Billy are agreeing today. Cowboys win. Dak's on fire. Fuck yourself, Alex. Just kidding. You're a nice guy. And we have, don't you think Spears is better for this type of game script for Rougarou? I do, but he hasn't got more than 40 yards in a single game. So I'm not like banking on 9 catches for 80 yards or anything. He's gotten 2-3 catches in a game. And that's why I'm saying that they haven't used Tyjae Spears in a full pass down capacity. And also I think Will Levis is just too kind of new here. So I'd love to see him.
Wow, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I'd love to see him get a chance to do that in this game because I've been waiting on the Tyjae Spears, just like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and let him go. But no, they still haven't done it yet.
See, if Henry was out, I would be like smash Spears. Like he would be out there every time. They could run it. They could throw it. They could pass it. They could do anything. Not smash Spears, but, play
No,
him.
You're
Sorry.
No,
Sorry, you looked at me funny.
Well,
but no, I would actually play Spears because he is a pass catching running back and he would be getting lead back duties. So he'd be out there for all those little plays. But considering Derrick Henry's out there, they just kind of lose that. I personally don't understand why they're not running them both out there because they don't have more than 2 wide receivers on this team. So
Brittany and Tyjae, just a couple smashable Spears.
100%, especially out of that conservatorship. I don't have to worry about dad. All right, there's the offensive point for the day. But we're gonna get out of here. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap that up right on that note. But no, thanks for tuning in us all year long live. Oh, sorry, we got one last question. Rue, you really know how to interrupt our Spears conversation.
Love it. Karlaftis for me.
Karlaftis or Thule, and I agree. Karlaftis had a great season, although the stats don't show it the full season. It's been great. So anyway, we're going to head out. Thank you for tuning in and riding with us all year long. Be sure to check out everything we do in the off season, which is literally every single week. You're going to get new information from us, whether it's Dynasty, whether it's playoffs, whether it's NFL, whether it's college football. It's going to be a little bit of everything, but check us out. And Billy, go ahead and get us out of here.
The podcast will continue. The shows will continue. So everyone go follow us on our socials and good night.